Hey everyone, this is just Nathan, and today I'm gonna try something a little different. I'm gonna do one of those reaction videos that people like to do, and because today I'm choosing to watch Schaffrillas' new Tim Burton ranking. I've actually been looking forward to this ever since he started posting his ratings and reviews for several Tim Burton movies in July, because I actually have my own post where I ranked every Tim Burton movie, and I I have my own thoughts on them individually. I'll post the links to them in the description. And normally I try to avoid doing rankings that Schaffrillas has done, and now he's doing a ranking that I've done. So it'll be interesting seeing how our thoughts differ. I mean, but I already know in hindsight that this might not be something to fully take seriously because because he gave my go-to Tim Burton film a 2.5-star rating, and that's not good for me. In case you wonder what it was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. And I'm already fearing that part. So yeah, this should be interesting. I thought I'd have more to say in the intro. But regardless, let's take a look at this, shall we?
Funding for Schaffrillas
This is provided by
Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. Oh yeah, also I'm holding a Star Wars character popularity poll. Please vote in that. Link in the description.
No.
Closes on Halloween. Hello, friends. I figured it was high time I do something to celebrate the most prominent holiday in the month of October. That, of course, being Mad Hatter Day on October 6th.
Wait, that's a real thing?
What director is associated with the Mad Hatter? Well, that's obvious. Christopher Nolan, because he made Batman movies, and the Mad Hatter is a Batman villain. But then I realized I already did a ranking of his movies. Well, I guess I better do a ranking for another director who's done Batman movies. And I also like monkeys, so ideally, he should have made at least one Planet of the Apes.
Dr. Zayas.
Well, oh, duh! Matt Reeves! Wait, no, I said Batman movies, plural. And he's only made the one so far. Alright, forget all this criteria. Let's just do my most requested ranking for a director named Tim.
Tim Hill.
Well, I already did the Tim Hill ranking.
Yeah.
That's kind of all there is for prominent directors with that name. Oh yeah, wait a minute! Yes, Tim Burton is by far my most requested director to rank ever outside of Tim Hill. It makes perfect sense. After all, he's one of the most popular and distinct directors that general audiences know about. Even if you don't know much about film at all, you know what a Tim Burton movie looks like. Typically, his movies are dark and gloomy, but often with a playful and humorous edge. He's covered a wide variety of genres in his movies, with a lot of them feeling very tonally distinct from others. But if you marathon all of them like I did, you're gonna see a lot of recurring names in the opening credits. You better believe the costumes in his movies will be designed by Colleen Atwood, and the score will be done by Danny Elfman.
I actually have marathon all of them, like I said earlier, but I don't recall all the recurring names there. I never really picked up on that.
Now I truly understand that joke about him from the Family Guy Star Wars special deep down in my soul. On top of behind-the-scenes faces, you better believe Tim is gonna cast the same actors over and over. Most notably,
Yeah, he
Johnny
do that.
Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. Man,
True.
oh man, does that get old after a while. I should also say that I don't like Johnny Depp as a person for reasons we don't need to get into here. So from here on out, just know that if I praise his acting ability throughout this video, that is completely independent of him as a human being. Speaking of which,
True.
Even old Tim here is a bit controversial, with him apparently making comments about how black people don't fit his aesthetic. Tim, you can't say that, dude. But also,
what does that mean?
One less problematic problem people have had with him as of late is that he simply kinda fell off. He made some outstanding and original works early on in his career, but recently, he's become a shell of his former self creatively.
Yeah, that's a good point. I should have said this earlier in the intro, to give my thoughts on his filmography. I do think he was pretty consistent throughout the 80s and the 90s. He was pretty much on fire. And 2000s was also a pretty underrated decade for him, too, as he's made 3 really good movies. But the 2010s, no. He only made 1 really good movie and 1 kind of good movie, and the rest was absolute shit. I'm talking Alice in Wonderland, Dark Shadows, Miss Peregrine, and Dumbo. I only know how he feels about Alice in Wonderland, and it's the same rating that I gave the film. I don't know how he feels about the other 3 movies, but I'd be shocked if Dark Shadows isn't in last place. actually, I shouldn't be shocked by that at all because it's probably going to be Planet of the Apes. He gave that the lowest rating on Letterboxd, and that is his lowest rated film on IMDb.
Are those accusations true? I mean, not to spoil the ranking or anything, but yeah. I'm gonna be honest, you guys. Tim Burton is kind of the weakest director I've ranked so far, with the obvious exception of the other Tim. He's capable of some genuine, bona fide masterpieces. Or at least he was 30 years ago. But aside from that handful of bangers, I found most of his movies ranged between bad and mediocre. There weren't a lot of awful ones, but again, there aren't a lot of amazing ones. He is a pretty...
Whoa. Half of his filmography is bangers.
Average filmmaker. I ended up giving nearly half of his movies a score of 5 or 6 out of 10. I really appreciate the aesthetic of his early work, but even then, I wasn't huge on some of those early films of his. He's just a mixed bag filmmaker. I'm glad I got to experience his best works, since they are something truly special. But for the most part, it was a little boring watching the movies for this ranking and putting it all together. But with that,
I had fun watching them.
In the spirit of Mad Hatter Day or whatever, let's get this Mad Hatterific ranking going. Oh, actually, one more thing. Because I know I'm going to get a lot of comments about it if I don't say this now. The Nightmare Before Christmas is not a part of this ranking.
Thank you.
Tim Burton did not direct it. He wrote the poem it was based on, and he produced the film, but it was directed by Henry Selick. Same guy who made Coraline. Put some respect on his damn name.
And absolutely nothing else worth mentioning.
It drives me insane that Tim Burton's name is all over this film, and most people call it a Tim Burton movie. It is not. I refuse to include it on this list. You need to
Me too.
Sheeple and realize that Tim Burton did not make this damn movie. With that said, if it counted for the purposes of this list, I'd put it 5th place. Okay, now time for the actual Tim Burton movies.
Disappointment in the game of life.
Man, I had such a good number transition for this one. I was gonna use the Dr. Zaius bit from The Simpsons.
Planet of the Apes?
No, it had to be the disappointment in the game of life. Why couldn't you have been slightly less terrible, you dumb movie? You know what, I'm just doing the Dr. Zaius bit anyway.
Dr. Zaius.
What's wrong with me?
I think you're all crazy.
The Apes reboot is one of the most boring movies ever created. I had always heard it was bad, but I was at least expecting something entertainingly bad. Don't get me wrong, it does offer some of those elements, but they are pretty sparse. For the most part, this is just unfathomably dull. How dull, you wonder? Well, you know how some people say a movie is so boring it puts them to sleep? Usually, it's just a figure of speech. They don't mean they actually fell asleep watching it. You'll never guess what happened to me when trying to watch this.
He fell asleep.
I don't fall asleep at movies. I always tend to make sure I'm awake enough whenever I start a film to give it my full attention. I'm also a bit of a night owl. I go to bed pretty late. I started this film at 9 p.m. and I just conked out about an hour in when they're all walking through the desert or whatever. 10 p.m. is not late for me. I got plenty of sleep the night before. You guys don't understand. This has literally never happened to me with any other movie before.
Well, I actually didn't fall asleep watching the film. I'd actually put it in 3rd to last place, slightly above Alice in Wonderland and Dark Shadows, but I didn't feel like the climax was kind of painful. I was like thinking to myself, can't we just watch Edward Scissorhands again, or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Which I actually did 2 days later. Not the Scissorhands part, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory part. I'll probably watch that film again after October ends. Because that movie rules.
But that's what happens when you have a completely passionless, sauceless, pointless reboot. It has no style to its direction. This is one of Burton's most phoned-in feeling projects to date. The Ape Village looks like a Legends of the Hidden Temple set. The desert is bland. Mark Wahlberg is just entirely sleepwalking through his performance. I don't care for Helena Bonham.
At least not the happening.
Pixie Dream Ape. For some reason, there's also a hot human lady, except she never has any chemistry with Wahlberg, and they put all their cards into developing his relationship to the ape lady. But then at the end, he doesn't kiss the ape lady, but he kisses the human he barely talked to the whole time. This is the most cowardly movie ever made.
But shouldn't he kiss the ape lady? I mean, wasn't that what happened in the original? Saying because he's so damn ugly? They probably didn't want to make a reference to that.
For a bit. I've never seen the original sequels to the first Planet of the Apes movie.
I did.
Obviously, I have seen that original film. It's an absolute masterpiece classic with sharp social commentary and a simple yet effective horrific tale of time displacement. This movie is anything...
I actually have seen the original films, but not since I was 12. If you're wondering how old I am now, I'm 21. So that's like 9 years.
But in those regards. The social commentary is ridiculously on the nose, yet also underdeveloped at the same time. And the time travel stuff is mostly pretty simple until that gas ending, which we'll get to. I wanted to bring up the original film's sequels though, because I've heard pretty negative things about them. But I'm not gonna lie, it's really hard to picture this franchise getting any worse than this atrocity. The only part of this I liked, unironically, was Paul Giamatti as this goofy orangutan dude, who tags along with this already needlessly large group of characters. So like, I don't know, he has some charming and funny lines, so what can I say, I kinda dug him. And then there's the ironic enjoyment to be gathered from Tim Roth as the villainous General Thade. For some reason, he always talks in this weird whisper. When he does it, it's very entertaining. Terrible as a villain you're supposed to be intimidated by.
It's a boomafoo.
Ending, ooh mama. If you know anything about this movie, it's probably this. Mark Wahlberg gets a chance to make it back home after the sauceless final battle where apes and humans just kinda hit each other for a while. He flies back to Earth in his own time period, but uh-oh, that's not Abraham Lincoln. It's Abraham Lincoln.
He made it before I could.
Done, done. Turns out the past has been altered and apes now rule the world.
Yeah, that makes absolutely no sense.
Why? Because, you see...
He doesn't know. And neither do I.
And that's Planet of the Apes, 2001!
I actually heard some theory that it was General Thade who went back in time there, but I think that theory is bullshit because... there was no indication of that whatsoever at any point in the film that he would be a time traveler. At least I don't think.
A reboot with practically nothing to offer over the original, aside from some pretty stellar makeup effects and Paul Giamatti being silly. Completely boring and stale otherwise.
Yeah, the makeup was actually done by Rick Baker. I think he also did the live-action Grinch movie. He's really good at making the actors look absolutely nothing like them. That's really convincing makeup work. Did I see anything else he did? He did the makeup for some other movie that I've seen. I can't remember what it was.
It's honestly made me quit watching Tim Burton movies for a while and go back to watching stuff for the Adam Sandler ranking. Do you know how terrible you have to be for me to willingly choose Adam Sandler movies over you? Thanks for that, Planet of the...
I'm not watching that ranking, by the way. I was gonna say this at the end of the video, but I'm not watching that ranking because I don't like Adam Sandler at all. And I haven't seen all his movies. Anyway.
Oh boy, we've officially got
Dumbo?
to the Disney live-action remake garbage portion of the video. That didn't take long. Honestly, sometimes I think about ranking all those movies, since that seems like the next logical way to torture myself for your entertainment. But then I watch shit like Dumbo, and I realize it would be extremely painful to watch all of these. I couldn't even bear the stupid, dumb elephant movie. What chance do I have against Snow White? Or, I don't know, literally all of the other ones. Trash. Anyway, Dumbo's...
I'm not gonna lie, I actually ranked this one higher than Alice in Wonderland, though I don't remember why. I don't want to look back at my ranking while recording this reaction video. That would take too much time.
Sucks. I'm not even a huge fan of the original animated movie, but it has...
I haven't seen the original.
...ingenuity in the animation, and it was very novel for its time. Best of all, that shit was short. 64 minutes. If you tried to make a 64-minute movie today, they would shoot you. Case in point,
why?
The new Dumbo is 112 minutes. Holy shit, what did they do to add an extra hour to this damn...
I wasn't gonna bring this up, but why are these icons bouncing around the screen in the first two entries? Is he trying to avoid doing copyright there?
Story. Well, they basically added an entirely new story. This isn't really a remake of Dumbo, as much as it is a brand new circus movie that just so happens to have Dumbo in it. There are talking animals, and all the main characters are boring humans. My favorite. Colin Farrell plays a circus guy who lost his arm in the war, and then he comes back to his 2 kids in the circus.
Yeah, it was really hard for me to pay attention to this movie.
Child actress I've seen in quite a while. Like, I'm not gonna harp on a kid performance or anything, but man, does she not have a single line delivery with any emotion in it. And I blame you for that, Tim! Yeah, these characters are boring, and they suck, and I don't care about them. They form a friendship with Dumbo, who doesn't really get to do anything as his own character, like in the original. He's just completely subject to the whims of the humans. Danny DeVito plays the owner of the circus, and if I had a nickel for every time Danny DeVito plays a circus owner in a Tim Burton movie,
2 nickels.
I have 1 nickel because I refuse to recognize Dumbo as a movie. This is so far beneath fish that putting them in the same entertainment category should be legally recognized as slander. Anyways, sometimes DeVito can be kind of funny in this. But oh no! The evil businessman Michael Keaton is here to exploit Dumbo in his Dreamland theme park. Wait, is this fucking story about Disney? It's really weird. It feels like we're watching a somewhat scathing critique of Walt Disney and what he does. But it's in a Disney blockbuster. I actually don't know what to make of that. Like, I guess the Disney executives didn't really care because they just figured, it's a remake of that elephant cartoon. Just make it make money. Doesn't matter what's in it. It's like, I want to give Tim Burton credit for using Disney money to make an evil parody of Disney, but it's just not that interesting. I still want to be entertained by a film that has a soul to it. And I did not get that at any point in Dumbo 2019. It moves along like it's on a factory assembly line. No emotional bits ever hit. No sequences ever wow me. It's a largely original story.
Bring up Michael Buffer.
Live-action remakes, and yet it drags along with the same dull predictability that plague all the other ones that follow the same story as the originals. They also throw in a lot of stuff that doesn't really fit in an attempt to give the illusion of being progressive. Like, wow, this little girl talks about wanting to be a scientist and being remembered for her mind. She's clearly so passionate about it, you can tell in her voice and face.
I want to make scientific discoveries. I want to be noticed for my mind.
Okay, sorry, I'll stop being mean about that now. Again, though, it's Tim's fault, not hers. Anyway, her love of science doesn't affect anything and barely gets brought up over the course of the film. I guess figuring out...
I don't remember that at all.
...when he uses a feather...
I don't remember that part of the movie at all. It clearly didn't leave an overall impression on me. Then again, neither did this movie. And I've watched it twice. Once in the theaters and once for my own personal ranking. He's got to bring up Michael Buffer at some point.
...is a scientific discovery. That's the extent of how much this actually matters. The climax of the film is about saving Dumbo and his mom and setting them free. And the ending features Danny DeVito talking directly to the camera and saying, "Look, we don't have animals anymore. We're a cruelty-free circus." Obviously, it's good in the real world for a circus to not use and mistreat animals, but in this movie, the circus is floundering until Dumbo becomes their star attraction. Then they set him free, and what, now the circus is popular? That doesn't fit with the movie I just watched. It's a really shoehorned and half-assed ending that comes from trying to adapt 2019 morality into a story from the 40s. Speaking of which, since they got rid of all the animal characters, that includes the racist crows, which, yeah, probably a big call. But they lift a lot of the crows' dialogue and give it to some jackass human character. That's something to do a lot, actually. The Baby Mine song is just sung by this random lady in the circus we don't know.
Who is that?
Wow, this is such an emotional moment. It feels so personal and riveting. They do a significantly lamer version of the pink elephant scene that doesn't involve Dumbo getting drunk this time. Because we're the good, progressive Dumbo. No CGI elephant will get drunk under our watch. We're the Walt Disney Corporation, damn it! Then there's some other bullshit, like a lady flies in on Dumbo to turn off all the lights at not Disneyland.
What?
The guard subdues the lady, but then they just let Dumbo pull all the levers to shut down the lights.
I don't remember any of this stuff.
For some reason. They kind of just stand there and watch as he shuts down power to the whole place. He's a baby elephant. What the f do you think he's gonna do? Just stop him. Oh, and don't worry, they explain how Dumbo gets his name, which I know has kept you all up at night. You see, a sign that says Jumbo breaks over, and then it says Dumbo.
Oh, I forgot about that.
The guy looks at it and laughs and says, "Look at the sign! Dumbo! But then the kids decide they should keep calling him Dumbo, even though it was a name that mocked him. Because if they call him Jumbo
That is a
Jr.,
stupid decision.
remind him of his mom, Jumbo, and he'll get sad. So we have to call him Dumbo. That's the only name he can ever have. We can't think of another one.
Whose idea was to put all this? Oh, right. The guy who wrote this movie also wrote Transformers 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, that's not surprising in hindsight. I mean, there was only like one good film in that franchise, and that's one that Aaron Kruger didn't write. Then again, he didn't write Last Night, and that was unbearable. Sorry, that was completely unrelated.
Then the movie wouldn't be called Dumbo, and we wouldn't get
Alvin.
that name recognition from the nostalgic 80-year-olds in the audience. We need the 80-year-old nostalgia bait. We're the Walt Disney Company, damn it! Whatever. What else can I really say?
There's probably people younger than that who grew up watching Dumbo, for all I know.
It's another soulless, disposable Disney live-action remake that adds nothing to the world as a whole. Even Burton was unsatisfied with it, stating that his days with Disney are done. Because he realized that he was Dumbo, working in this horrible big circus, and he needed to escape. It really doesn't get more scathing than that. I'm just glad I'm done talking about the Disney live-action remake.
He's not.
Who am I kidding? You know what's next.
I actually thought that Dark Shadows would be somewhere in the bottom 3 because that movie was painful to sit through. But it looks like Alice in Wonderland is in third to last place. He just said so. Yeah, this movie was painful to sit through. I reviewed it twice on my blog actually. Yeah, not fun. Not fun.
I cannot express enough how much I was dreading watching the live-action Alice in Wonderland. Everything I've seen of this movie makes it out to be the least visually appealing film ever made. Now that I've watched it in its entirety, I mean, it's not literally the actual least visually appealing film ever, but let's just say it's hard for me to think of a worse one off the top of my head. Oh my god, I hate everything about the style here. I hate the horrific CGI designs, I hate the drab gray color palette. Every second spent staring at Helena Bonham Carter's enlarged, deformed CGI head was a second of my life I'll never get back. But I know it's not fair to act so shallow and solely judge this movie by its looks. Thankfully, it also has an ugly personality. I'm pretty sure some people give this movie credit, because even though it kicked off the suffocatingly disgusting live-action remake trend over at Disney that we're still suffering from the effects of today, this one isn't exactly a remake of the original animated film. It's more of a sequel depicting Alice as a young adult returning to Wonderland. Oh, I'm sorry.
Underland.
To Underland. Yes, that is the name of the place apparently. And having to slay the Jabberwocky as part of this prophecy. It's actually a new story.
Yeah, I remember hearing it was actually originally called Underland until it was changed to Wonderland. I don't know if that's true or not, but I don't like that name anyways. Actually, I haven't really seen the Disney version of Alice in Wonderland either, nor any other adaptation. But even then, I thought that this movie was absolute shit. And it's kind of comforting to know that there's someone out there who hates it as much as me, because like I said earlier, his rating for it on Letterboxd is Steven I gave it. Did I see that earlier in the video? I'll check that later.
Story instead of a beat-for-beat remake of the original, which I guess deserves the mildest commendation in comparison to the even more soulless shit Disney is dumping into the pig trough now. But just because it's original doesn't mean it's good. They took one of the most whimsical and creative stories and sets of characters ever made and shoved them into any old generic fantasy slop story. There's a revolution against the evil Red Queen. We all need to unite and free Underland from her rule.
Down Underland.
Matter gets water flashbacks in this movie. I'm sorry, I don't care if it's original. The story is just boring in this film. Normal Alice in Wonderland.
The story was not original. I mean, it might have been original for this series standards, but in terms of overall movies, it doesn't have an original story. I gotta admit, I like the idea of a grown-up Alice confronting her childhood fears, but they don't really do that or really embrace the chaotic silliness of Wonderland, which it probably should, because Tim Burton has done that wonderfully in other films, including Charlie the Chocolate Factory, which I'm dreading him talking about because I love that movie. Like I said, yeah. So.
Doesn't have an amazing story, or really any story at all, but it has whimsy. It has fun. All the fun and whimsy has been sucked out of this version of the world. But they forgot to replace it with actually compelling drama and characters. Alice is unbelievably dull here. She barely reacts to any of the fantastical elements around her. She keeps insisting this is all a dream up until right before the final battle, which makes her investment in anything going on kind of bizarre. I just didn't buy her as a protagonist. But she was a hell of a lot better than Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter. This was absolutely...
Yeah, I think the problem there is that Mia Wasikowska lacked direction, because like all of her scenes were shot on a green screen, so she didn't really have much to react off of other than the human actors, which is kind of hypocritical for Burton. I mean, I remember reading in a book that I still own that he never really liked CGI, and now he's just making all the CGI films. I mean. In Chocolate Factory, the CG actually was convincing, and people actually played off the film well. We'll get more into that. I'm sorry, I can't stop thinking about the film. I just want to watch that film again.
Rock bottom for them and Burton as a trio of collaborators. I
No, there'll be Dark
can't
Shadows.
believe the three of them all made Sweeney Todd together only 3 years before this. What the f even happened? Depp is unfathomably annoying here. I had zero emotional
Thank
attachment
God.
to the Mad Hatter, nor did I laugh at any of his jokes. Any attempts at humor in general were just drowned out by how dour the tone is. When he does that stupid dance at the end, it feels like something that should have happened in an entirely different movie.
Yeah, I had a similar problem with the current season of Wednesday as well, which Burton was also involved in.
Awful. But Helena might be even worse somehow? Maybe it's just the CGI head making her performance seem worse than it is. But she's just so screechy and annoying in a way the original Queen of Hearts never was. I guess Anne Hathaway and Crispin Glover are fine, and there are some mildly creative bits. Like, I like the set design whenever...
I actually didn't like those two in the film that much. I thought their I thought their deliveries were really bizarre. Not bizarre delivery. I don't know why I just did that. I can't edit that out. Which is weird because Anne Hathaway is usually a good actress, and I don't know if you know this, but I absolutely love me some Anne Hathaway. I'll gladly watch anything that I see her in. Well, maybe not movies, but certainly videos that she's in. Yeah, I should clarify that too. But yeah, I agree mostly with what he's saying. But sorry, but these bouncing images are just so distracting.
Small. The costumes are also pretty neat, and it's kind of fun how everyone in the Queen's Court randomly has large synthetic body parts. We're getting furious once they're all revealed to be fake. That's a cute bit that actually fits the tone of the original.
I don't remember that part at all.
I cannot stress enough, by the way. I don't hate this movie for being different from the original animated film. In theory, that's a really, really good thing that the modern live-action remakes should strive to be. What I do hate this movie for is being different and bad. It's just a boring fantasy revolution storyline you've seen done a million times before. But this one has a dragon voiced by Christopher Lee for 2 lines. Seriously, the Jabberwocky says 2 things and then Alice cuts his tongue out. Why even make it talk in the first place, let alone get Christopher Lee to...
Yeah.
This also leads me into the final...
Yeah, why would the Jabberwocky talk? And for that matter, why would the dog talk in it too?
Coffin with this film. The fact that Alice defeating the Jabberwocky is all predestined by this prophecy, where everything depicted in it happens exactly how it should. There's even one part where she seems to defy the prophecy by going to rescue the Mad Hatter. But then Anne Hathaway says, "Oh, don't worry, that's part of the prophecy, since that's where she gets the dragon-killing sword."
Shouldn't he talk more of an accent?
There's no stakes. There's no uncertainty about what's going to happen. The movie never tries to make the Queen of Hearts defy the prophecy in any way. Nor does Alice ever do anything that isn't in the prophecy. In the first 20 minutes, we learn that Alice will defeat the Jabberwocky. And then she does! Well then, do we even need the rest of the movie? Thanks for not making me care about anything at all in the least...
I never thought of it that way! Oh my God! Why? Why would they do this in the film?
up to the big fight. You could say a similar thing about prequels where you mostly know what's going to happen, but a good prequel usually has interesting twists and turns to get to that point, and characters who don't show up later in the timeline for you to be concerned about the fate of. This movie isn't a prequel, but did you ever think, even for a moment, that the Mad Hatter was actually going to get his head chopped off? Really? There's no weight to anything. There's no drama, there's no suspense. Making a gritty, intense, live-action Alice in Wonderland with hideous CGI and unbearable performances that ends with Alice slaying a dragon is an idea that would get you laughed out of the pitch room. And yeah, I guess the joke's on me because this piece of film made $1 billion! How did this make $1 billion? That's insane! But
Well, 2 reasons why. 1, Tim Burton. 2, Alice in Wonderland.
Believe that this film's success at the box office was the single worst thing that happened to Disney this century. We would not be stuck in the live-action shithole we're in today if this had been ignored by the general public. But, more importantly to the subject of this video, this was arguably the point of no return for Tim Burton as a director. He would go on to make decent stuff after this, and finally return to practical effects in his most recent film, but this was when he traded out the incredible style of his early work for this lazy, atrocious assault on the eyeball.
Yeah, I feel like he only made 2 decent films after that, which I kind of said earlier, but I'll just say what they were now. Frankenweenie and Big Eyes.
I can't believe it looks like this. I can't believe it's this dull. At one point, I had to pause the movie and pull up Technical Foul from 8 Crazy Nights.
Oh,
I just needed to
God, 8 Crazy Nights.
God damn it. Definitely not his worst film, but I kind of
Yeah,
hate its guts
second worst.
the most out of everything he's made. Don't wanna be a...
Yeah, I feel I should mention one thing that I do like about the film that he did not bring up, unless I missed it. The music. I think Danny Elfman's theme is so good, and I also really like the Avril Lavigne song that plays during the credits. Though some people are probably not going to agree with me on the latter. This is going to be Dark Shadows, isn't it? Yeah, it's Dark Shadows.
What the kind of movie even is Dark Shadows? I don't think any of Tim Burton's films are as tonally confused as this one is. I mean, I genuinely don't know what to categorize this film as. Is it a straight horror film because there's a lot of vampire killings and creepy visuals? Or is it a parody of vampire horror movies? Because this guy, who became a vampire in the 1700s, has to adjust to the 1970s. He has a lot of pretty silly moments, like when he befriends a group of hippies in a scene that's actually kind of sweet. Oh wait, no, he brutally kills them all at the end. I guess that's scary then? Or is it meant to be funny? Was that like a joke? Okay, so Helena Bonham Carter is a doctor, and she's in love with him, and she sucks his dick without asking, which is funny, apparently. I mean, he doesn't seem mad about it, so I guess they're in love. Oh wait, no, she was siphoning his blood so she could become a vampire and stay young forever.
That's stupid.
He brutally kills her and dumps her body in the ocean. Scary. There's also a scary vampire sex scene where he has hot, steamy sex with the witch who cursed him, and they bounce all around. Wait, no, that's not scary. That's funny. I mean, I didn't laugh at it, but it's funny, right? Hey, what's the plot of this movie anyway? Well, Johnny Depp is the vampire who came back after being buried alive for 200 years. And the witch who cursed him because she was jealous that he didn't love her is still around. And they get into a business war, I guess? But Johnny Depp must also bond with his descendants, who are barely fleshed out to the point where most of them might as well not even be in the movie. We're told this little boy really looks up to him and that Johnny Depp vampire is all he ever talks about. And it's like, when did they interact before this? Did I miss that scene? I guess the movie is...
I don't remember that boy.
So maybe I tuned it out. Seriously, nothing happens and the tone is just insanely mismatched. There are so many silly vampire shenanigans to the point where this might as well be a TV show. And actually, it is based on a TV show from the 60s. Okay, great. Clearly Tim Burton is a big fan of that show, but as someone who never watched it, I would kind of prefer if this functioned as a movie with a coherent plot and tone. You can do horror.
Yeah, I haven't seen this show either, but my school library actually does have one of the seasons on DVD. Maybe I'll rent it. Probably not.
Comedy. Plenty of movies have. You wanna know how I know that? Because I watched the movies Tim Burton made in the 80s and 90s before he became a hack. There's a difference between something like Beetlejuice that can be funny and scary at the same time, and this garbage that switches back and forth between them on a dime. It has no idea what it wants to be, and it's so hard to care about anything going on. Johnny Depp is fine in this one.
I gotta ask, why would he lump Beetlejuice in the good category, so to speak, when he gave it 3 stars on Letterboxd?
This is especially where the partnership between him and Burton has entirely worn out its welcome. The rest of the family isn't interesting. One of the daughters turns out to be a werewolf for some reason, which only happens in the final act and doesn't even matter to the plot. Is that just something from the show they felt like they needed to throw in? Who even cares? This sucks. There's a completely boring love interest for Johnny Depp I also don't care about. The only remotely entertaining character is Eva Green as the witch. And the writing for her character doesn't get any more compelling than, what if a witch was really hot and really horny? But you know what? She's clearly having a ball in the performance. Definitely innocent in all this. I think the climax where she starts to use her powers against the family is pretty fun. Even though it only comes after an hour and a half of every character just dicking around. Seriously, what the hell even was this movie? It just feels aimless and confused for so much of its runtime, until it remembers, oh, I guess I better have an action climax so people don't leave the theater thinking that I sucked. Well, too bad. That's exactly how I felt leaving my living room and going to bed, because I didn't have any energy to do anything else after watching this slog. In fact, I don't have any energy to keep talking about it. Moving on. Mars.
Also, it was the final nail in the coffin for him and Helena Bonham Carter making films, because they're not sleeping together anymore. They haven't been in 13 years. What's this one? Oh, wait, I know what this is. It's Mars Attacks.
God, imagine it. Mars Attacks is kind
What's the
of
audio
boring
sample
and
What was the audio sample
and
from?
I didn't really like it. Don't get me wrong, I think it's kind
Yeah, I don't like the film either, but my parents do for some reason.
of cute that immediately after finishing Ed Wood, a biopic about a guy who made a bunch of terrible B movies, Burton decided he wanted to try his hand at his own B movie.
That is kind of funny.
Despite understanding the appeal of Wood's pictures and expertly capturing that in his biopic, I don't really think Burton was the right fit to make one himself. This is a surprisingly stiff and humorless film, considering how much it clearly wants to be seen as an effective comedy. But between the jokes not really landing and the utterly ridiculous number of characters this movie has, it honestly reminded me a lot of Spielberg's 1941. And if you watched my Spielberg ranking, you probably know that I don't consider that to be a good thing at all. This movie isn't nearly as bad as that one. There are some definite saving graces. But man, I don't know if I liked a single human character in this. There are some performances that are kind of fun. Like I liked Pierce Brosnan as this suave scientist. And Michael J. Fox was fun for the 10 minutes he's in this. That's the thing though. There are so many famous actors in this movie, but none of them are in it enough or have strong enough writing to leave an impression. It's perhaps one of the biggest fumblings of an excellent ensemble cast I've ever seen in my life. Danny DeVito shows up in one scene at the beginning, and then he doesn't come back until an hour later where he just abruptly dies. And not in a funny or interesting way. Natalie Portman is in this movie as the daughter of the President of the United States. And I forgot that, since she kind of just vanishes during the third act. The President is played by Jack Nicholson, and you'd think that would be awesome, especially since he's the only character who feels like he gets enough screen time in this. But Nicholson honestly plays the most normal character I've ever seen from him. There is nothing memorable or funny about this guy. And by the end, his character accomplishes nothing. So why do we need to spend so much time on him? The guy who actually saves the day is so forgettable that I don't even remember his name. Why couldn't he have just been the main character? Why did this need to be an ensemble movie? These people are so boring, and the entire first 40 minutes is spent on their pointless subplots, when you're just agonizingly waiting for Mars to start attacking in the movie called Mars Attacks. With that said, the Martian stuff absolutely carries this damn film. I kind of love how they're rendered with terrible, cheesy 90s CGI. Like, they look awful by modern standards, but that fits the tone really well.
Yeah, I think I kind of wanted the Martians to win.
do so many freaky things in this movie that don't even really add to anything going on, but man are they delightful to see. It really wakes you up from the coma the first act of the movie puts you in. Unfortunately, even the wanton destruction the aliens create gets pretty old and predictable after a while. It's just hard to feel any weight to what's going on, really. And I know this is meant to be a goofy, tongue-in-cheek spoof movie, but if that's the case, then it just needed to be, you know,
Funny.
I laughed at a couple bits. Like, I liked when these kids had so much practice from shooting aliens in video games that they were able to do it in real life and defend the president. I also liked when...
Like in Pixels?
I swear I laughed at some other things. I can't remember what they are now.
The translator scene.
Yeah, I think that says it all. Segment over. And now, let's hear from Squarespace. I know what you're thinking. What? No wacky transition to the sponsor this time? Yeah, I don't know, man. I just want to talk about Big Fish already. We gotta get to the great movies as soon as we can. Squarespace is a wonderful...
Yeah, we're not watching that.
Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children is a rather peculiar film. The pacing is all sorts of wonky, the story and characters don't feel nearly as fleshed out as they should. There's some odd tonal issues plaguing the film at every turn. I never read the original book this movie is based on, but I imagine this isn't a particularly strong adaptation of it. A pretty major problem right on...
Yeah, I actually heard that it's not faithful to the book at all. I wouldn't know because I tried to read the book, and after I read the prologue, it became clear that it wasn't gonna be for me.
That is, I think, Asa Butterfield gives a really weak central performance. He just didn't really
This pronounced
the
Asa.
emotions of this character at any point, and Ella Purnell is acting circles around him the entire movie. Anyway, he's a kid who doesn't fit in. He's weird. He's a weirdo. But then he finds out his grandfather belonged to some secret society of weird children with cool powers, helmed by the titular Miss Peregrine. Who honestly isn't really that major of a character. She doesn't really leave much of an impression, and she's absent for pretty much the entire third act. Oh well, I guess the main character gets to enjoy all the wonders of it.
Well, she is pretty damn fine looking, though.
Frozen in time. He even starts to fall in love with the same girl his grandfather was in love with in 1943.
Ew.
Wait a minute, she's still physically a teenager, but mentally, she's like almost a century old, right? She remembers every day of this time loop. No? Am I missing something, or is this a really weird age gap the movie just doesn't want me to think about? Look, Samuel L. Jackson is here! He did it, guys. Tim Burton cast a black man as a major character. See?
Oh, yeah.
He can't be racist now. He put Samuel L. Jackson in one movie. Anyway, this is the main villain who they don't introduce to us until the movie is over halfway done. It would be one thing if they were building him up by dropping lore about him in the first half. But no, they just straight up don't explain what the main conflict of the film is until we're an hour in. Wow, that's investing. Honestly, the house and all its peculiar children weren't really grabbing me. It felt like the same lukewarm, tepid Burton slop we've come to expect nowadays. But once they explained the pretty f***ed up backstory of Samuel and his cronies, that's when the film actually started to hook me. That was some good old-fashioned horrific Tim Burton shit right there. I don't even mind these abominations being made of terrible CG. Sure, I would have preferred if they were stop motion or something, but the terrible CG does at least make them look creepy, so it still works for me. Unfortunately, I just didn't really vibe with Samuel L. Jackson's character outside of the design. He's just so goofy. And that feels really off, because I feel like they should have gone for creepy instead. It really takes me out of the darker tone of the second half, whenever he changes it up.
Yeah, and also, why does he look so similar to Mr. Glass in this film? Or maybe that's just me.
Movie waits so long to establish him, there's basically no time to breathe between the second and third acts. This movie just has to rush to its climax, and it makes me lament how much time was wasted earlier in the film. The ending is also pretty odd implication-wise. Like, what do his parents think about this? Do they know? Whatever. This is a pretty flawed movie, where I can at least tell the book was probably a banger, so I guess that's worth celebrating. Still, this could have been a hell of a lot better. Could have been worse too, though, I guess.
You get nothing!
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
You fucking dick!
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is not very good. This is your childhood or whatever, but I saw it when I was a kid and did not really like it then either. I loved the book, and on paper, this is a pretty faithful adaptation that keeps all the weirdness and rough edges intact.
That's weird, because, like, because I was 7 when I saw this movie, and I loved it. And he was 7 when that film came out, technically. I mean, and I've loved it ever since I was a kid. In fact, I still love it now.
There's just one glaring issue at the center of
Johnny
the
Depp.
film that makes it pretty difficult to enjoy. Before we get into that, I want to make it clear that I have not read the book in like 20 years, nor have I seen the original Gene Wilder version in quite some time. So I'm really going to do my best to avoid comparing this to either of those, and just...
Yeah, I don't think Burton wanted to do that either. I almost said Depp there. Yeah, he didn't really, I heard he didn't really like the original film that much, so he chose to distance himself from that adaptation as much as possible by having every crew member not refer back to that for comparison. So it makes sense that he would not, that Chief wouldn't want to compare the two adaptations anyways, because they're vastly different movies. Yeah, but I actually have seen the original and the Timothée Chalamet one, and I think the original is just pretty good. I thought the Chalamet one was okay, but I know what his problem is now. It's gonna be Deborah's Wonka, and I'm gonna dread that because I love him.
Kind of judge it on its own merits. I don't want this to be an old thing good, new thing bad segment. I genuinely think I wouldn't like this film, even if it was the first piece of...
Yeah, Nostalgic Critic did something like that too, where he was like old film good, new film bad, and this guy doesn't like Nostalgic Critic.
Related media I ever watched. I kind of like the first 30 minutes at least. I think they're pretty well paced, and they do a great job of establishing Charlie, his family, and all these other asshole kids. But wouldn't you know it, the movie starts going downhill once the big man himself, Willy Wonka, comes into the picture. Look, Johnny Depp has given some amazing performances in Tim Burton films, and I'll talk about those in due time. But holy shit,
Numbers 2 and 1.
He is kind of awful here. I really couldn't stand his Willy Wonka. It's all odd, quirky little mannerisms and giggling at the end of every sentence, and misdelivery just about every joke out of his mouth. He peeps with most of these children, and it doesn't come across like an adult talking down to them. It feels like he's a child in a grown man's body arguing with other children. I just couldn't stand...
That's the point of him! He is a child stuck in a grown man's body! Also, screw him! He's awesome in that film. He's so snarky and sarcastic, and it's fucking hilarious. Like that moment where he like just casually tosses away Mr. TV's card and is laughing and all that. That's just iconic to me. I mean, he definitely planned this. I just love him.
Yeah. And it's made even worse by the fact that despite this version returning to the title Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Willy Wonka is kind of unambiguously the focus here. It's really weird how Charlie still feels like the main character of a film they called Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Like, these two movies should really swap titles. But yeah, once the tour begins, Charlie basically does nothing, and I kind of forget he's even there. It's just Willy Wonka acting...
Yeah, I said that on Letterboxd.
...as the other kids meet their demises. And then we'll cut to flashbacks that explain why he turned out the way he did. Since his father was Count Dooku, and he hated candy since he was a dentist. Honestly, I actually kind of like this as a backstory of Willy Wonka. I don't think it ruins the mystique, and I feel like it makes for a pretty nice, tender button on the story at the very end. My problem
I felt it kind of dragged.
is that it contributes to how annoyingly Wonka-centric the last 2/3 of this movie are. Charlie doesn't get to do anything until the very end, where he at least teaches Wonka the value of family. Before then, he basically wins the chocolate factory by doing absolutely nothing. Welcome back, Luigi. You could argue the same happens in the book, but I think the original movie improved upon it by adding the whole fizzy lifting drink subplot. It was a nice final test of Charlie's morality that made his ownership of the factory...
Okay, talk about the music.
And you could argue the same is true of him convincing Wonka that family matters. But again, that's just such a Wonka-centric development. It feels like the movie entirely shifts to his perspective abruptly, and it barely ever wraps around to feel like Charlie's journey again. I think the production design is generally very cool, and the scenes where all the kids get murdered are pretty well realized and fun. The Mike TV scene in particular, where he's flung between different shows on different channels, was really cool. I like how all the Oompa Loompas are just played by one guy, and while I initially thought the first few genre covers of the songs about the kids were kinda cringe, I started to like them more as we went on, especially the Veruca and Mike ones. I also like a lot of little new additions. Like even
Yeah, the Veruca song is probably my favorite, though the Mike song might be my least favorite. I'd say it's a Veruca song, Violet song, Augustus song, Mike song.
I distinctly remember enjoying that bit where Charlie's dad gets a new job repairing the machine at the factory that replaced him. I don't know, that small bit right there feels exactly like something Roald Dahl would write. I definitely don't think this is an atrocious movie, but it's really hard for it to be a good one when you have this embarrassing charisma void of a central performance from Johnny Depp weighing down the entire film.
But he's right, though. It's not a good film. It's a great film. God, that's a terrible joke.
I'm glad Tim Burton still managed to squeeze one more good performance out of him after this. But in a lot of ways, this film was kind of the beginning of the end for Depp and Burton's credibility as collaborators. Obviously, Alice in Wonderland...
Do you not like him in Corpse Bride?
Entirely. But I feel like this is the movie that really sowed the seeds for that atrocity to happen. It's not atrocious itself, but I did not care for it. Sorry. Again, I grew up with this movie and I didn't like it then, so you can't say that's the problem. I wasn't even a picky child. I mean, I liked Chicken Little, for God's sake. This is definitely a much better movie than Chicken Little, but given the choice, I would probably just rather rewatch Chicken Little again.
I would not.
Porcupine, Porcupine. What the f*** do you have, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory 2005?
It has a lot of great things going for it, which I explained in my review. Actually, both of my reviews. But yeah, like I said, I love pretty much everything about it. I love this as a kid, and there's something else I was gonna say there too. I forgot what it was, and I don't want to rewind it. Well, it'll probably come back to me later.
So what exactly was the first movie Tim Burton ever made, anyway?
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Beetlejuice? Batman?
Pee-wee.
The Nightmare Before Christmas? No, silly. Why would you ever expect his first film to be dark or gothic in any way? Obviously, it was Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Duh. Yeah, this is a bit of a surprising start for a filmmaker with an iconic aesthetic that is very much not this. But you can absolutely see a lot of early hallmarks of Burton's future work here, such as the brief but stellar instances of stop-motion animation in this film. Unfortunately, I think I might legitimately hate fun, because I didn't really like this film that much. I don't know, I never grew up with Pee Wee Herman or really saw anything he was in until this. But yeah, he didn't really charm me or make me laugh that much. And his constant giggling was a little bit grating. He definitely has his moments. And
Okay, stop. Technically, by that, this means he gave it like a 5 or a 6 out of 10. But I love this movie. It's in my top 5 for Tim Burton films. I give it an 8 out of 10. I put it at number 5.
Completely obnoxious protagonist. I was just kind of indifferent to him. The plot of this movie is his bike got stolen, and he's gotta find it. He correctly assumes it was this big baby character who stole it, and I kind of thought this guy would play a major role in the plot. But in fact, he just gets rid of the bike, and then he's out of the movie until the very end. Most of the movie is just Pee-wee dicking around and meeting random people in a pointless wild goose chase to the Alamo. It makes for a pretty
I think it makes it work.
Interesting plot, even though I do kind of like some of the people he meets.
I realize it sounds insane to complain about the plot of a Pee Wee Herman movie, so to be clear, the plot wouldn't matter if I at least found most of the jokes funny. Huh.
The bits with Large Marge are pretty good, and I like this other girl who he encourages to follow her dreams in Paris. The ending chase scene is also super fun, probably my favorite part of the film. I also like the fake movie based on Pee-wee's life at the end that I am now realizing Chicken Little is completely ripped off. Is nothing sacred? Overall though, yeah, I'm sorry, I just didn't really get into this film, aside from chuckling at it a couple times here and there. I don't think I'm a Pee-wee head, you guys. Feel free to take away my whimsy enjoying card.
Something about Phil Hartman, I don't know. Okay, I think okay, judging from by that, audio stinger, whatever the fuck you want to call it, I think this is gonna be Frankenweenie next, and, oh boy, that's gonna be tough. That means you think that the movie is average, and I personally love it. I'd put it at number 6. But it does mean that we will now have confirmation as to how he feels about the 5 Burton films that he did not review on Letterboxd. Oh boy, here we go.
So in literally the year 1984, a young 20-something Tim Burton created a short film called Frankenweenie. which is Frankenstein, but instead of a monster, is a dog. And then way in the future, in the distant
Futurama.
year of 2012, he decided
Oh.
to adapt this
The entire segment is in black and white. That's funny.
to a full stop-motion feature-length film. It's honestly really cool how he returned to the idea all these years later. And by sheer coincidence, this ended up being the last movie I watched for this ranking. It was a really nice way to bookend the whole marathon. Even if, unfortunately, I didn't really get into this one as much as I was hoping. It's a loving tribute to all sorts of classic monster movies, not just Frankenstein. And the aesthetic and character design is absolutely on point. Look at this little Igor standing there.
I love
His
it.
damn fingers. Oh my god. Look at this girl who always carries around a cat that has prophetic poops. Her design is just so good, dude. Every character design in this is so wonderfully realized. It's an absolute 10 out of 10 on the visual front. But
Story front?
honestly, I thought the movie was kind of dull from a writing perspective. I mean, they don't really do a whole lot with the premise of bringing your dog back to life. The dog doesn't really play a huge role in anything going on. Instead, it's the fact that the kid brought the dog back that leads to all these other kids wanting to perform their own animal resurrection experiments in order to win the science fair.
But that's a lot of fun.
It goes wrong and leads to a pretty fun climax. But before
That's what I just said.
I gotta be honest, I didn't really care that much about what was going on. Victor is a pretty uninteresting protagonist, and there isn't a whole lot to his parents or classmates outside of, again, the designs. I did really like the science teacher character, and I thought he had some pretty good scenes, particularly when he's giving Victor advice as he leaves the school. But again, I can't really say anyone else left a big impression on me. I just
Like
didn't
Elsa.
really feel like there was enough here to justify a full feature film. Like, maybe this should have just stayed as short. It's still an alright movie, mainly due to the visuals and third acts largely carrying it, but I don't think it's nearly as good as Corpse Bride, or... Nope, that's the only other animated Tim Burton movie. Just those two. He didn't make any others. Got it?
Yeah, I just want to say, my father absolutely loves Frankenweenie. He says it makes him cry. I don't personally cry at it. I'm not really a dog person, but I will say that I'm actually very fond of the fall the fall period that this movie came out during. I'll leave it at that. Okay, what is this one? Oh, it's Big Eyes. Yeah, that's the only other movie that from the from this decade that he didn't talk about. So does that mean that this is his best film from the 2010s, a movie that gave a 6 out of 10? Does that mean that there are more 6 out of 10 movies in this ranking than 8 out of 10s? Oh, fuck me sideways.
Big Eyes is the follow-up to Big Fish, and Tim Burton's second entry in the Big Cinematic Universe, or BCU. Amy Adams plays a real-life painter named Margaret Keane, who is famous for these big eye paintings. Or she would have been famous for them if her husband didn't steal the credit. Yes, this guy, Walter, played by Christoph Waltz, pretended he was the guy who painted them the whole time. It was really funny looking up Walter Keane's Wikipedia article after this. Walter Keane was an American plagiarist, known for plagiarism. That's incredible. Truly how this dumb bitch deserves to be remembered. Yeah, I find the real-life story that inspired this film to be super interesting, and I'm glad it has a happy ending. Does this mean the movie is also super interesting?
No.
I don't know about that.
I didn't find it interesting
It's
either.
like a very bog standard and flat biopic that doesn't depict the events with a sense of drama and weight another filmmaker could afford it. You know, not to spoil the ranking, but Tim Burton made a pretty damn great biopic 20 years before this.
Yeah, I was the same
And
thing.
the sheer difference in style, level of energy, and the portraits they both paint of their respective subjects is night and day. 90s Tim Burton would have killed it with this material. But Big Eyes truly feels like literally anyone could have directed it. Amy Adams gives a pretty strong performance, but I don't think the film around her really paints that
yeah, no shit.
picture of who Margaret is as a person.
Well, no shit, she gets a great performance. She's Amy fucking Adams. She gets a great performance in anything she's in.
Maybe you could argue that's the point, since so much of who she is these paintings, and she gets those ripped away from her. But it results in her being a pretty flat character, and she remains this way even after she leaves her husband. Surely this is the point where we would get a better sense of who she is as a person, but it kind of feels like the movie doesn't really care. I don't know if this is accurate, but it feels like more screen time is given to Walter. Which is a shame because Christoph Waltz is not nearly giving as good of a performance as Amy Adams, or as good as any other performance I've seen from him.
Yeah, he kind of said that
bad and
He kind of said that in his mini letterbox review. He says along the lines of, "I don't think Christoph Waltz gave a particularly good performance, but I would prefer it over Johnny Depp or something." Wow, we're past
in a lot of these scenes. Sometimes he can be decently intimidating, but then he takes it way too far and cartoonish. I swear to God, the courtroom scene at the end where he's doing all these childish antics reminded me of Joker 2. As a filmmaker, you never want to be reminding people of Joker 2. Free word of advice there. There's a scene where he tries to set his wife and stepdaughter on fire when he's drunk, and I really wanted to take it seriously, but the performance is just so loony, and the filmmaking isn't strong enough to cover for that. I guess I should just be happy that Tim Burton didn't cast Johnny Depp in this part, because there's no way it would rank this high if that was the case. This movie is also wildly unsubtle, and doesn't leave you any room to interpret or come to any conclusions yourself. There's this song that Lana Del Rey wrote for this movie that has the most unsubtle lyrics I've ever heard in anything. I wonder what this woman thinks about her husband. It's so hard to tell based on the song that's playing.
I used to think that I could trust you. I was your woman. You were my knight and shining companion. To my surprise, my love's demise was his own green and lullabies with your big eyes and your big eyes. I don't remember this song in the movie. Then again, I don't remember this movie at all.
Earlier this year, I watched a very similar movie for a different ranking called The Eyes of Tammy Faye. That movie's not amazing or anything, but it takes a similar story about a real-life woman being charmed by and helping her snake oil salesman husband, and gives off a way better sense of who she is as a person, and how she became the woman we see throughout the rest of the movie. Also, the husband character, played by Andrew Garfield, isn't a cartoon character, and he feels emotionally manipulative in a realistic way. I think the director of that movie, Michael Showalter, just did a much better job with this kind of story, despite not having nearly the same level of fame and pedigree as Tim Burton. It was cool that Tim made a passable, real movie again after all these CGI atrocities. I think ultimately that Amy Adams' performance and the real-life story do kind of salvage this one a bit, but it really isn't anything more than fine. It needed more Jason Schwartzman. You can't just put him in 2 minutes of your movie and call it a day. Don't tease me like that.
Say my name.
Yeah, I think the problem there was, yeah, I'm not really an art guy, so I knew subject matter wasn't really going to interest me much. So that kind of sunk my interest in the movie as a whole, even though, again, it does have Amy Adams in it.
3 times. You like it?
Beetlejuice was alright. I don't think I fully get the appeal of this movie. I think the story is pretty fun and creative, but the execution is kinda low energy and unengaging whenever there's not a cool, crazy stop-motion effect on screen.
Wait, does this mean that he ranks the sequel higher? I mean, it's only ranked slightly higher because he gave up movies the same score on Letterboxd, but Beetlejuice 2? No. Beetlejuice 1 was great. I think I'll talk about Beetlejuice 2 later on. I don't remember all my thoughts on it, but yeah, we'll get to that later.
We got a recently deceased couple who come back as ghosts and who want this new rich family out of their house. But they're really bad at scaring them, so they have to turn to the titular unscrupulous and untrustworthy Beetlejuice to help. Eventually. Honestly, it takes a really long time before Beetlejuice actually does anything in this movie. But I had heard that going in, so I wasn't that let down by it. I just nonetheless feel like the pretty minimal story was really drawn out across the film's 90-minute runtime. And I just didn't really care about the characters that much. I don't know, the Maitlands are just really boring to me. They definitely have their moments. Like, I love that one scene where they're just having the most normal conversation while their faces are all freaky. Overall, though, I just wasn't that interested in them as protagonists. I don't care how hot young Alec Baldwin is. And I feel like Lydia didn't really get enough focus on her personal struggles for them to really anchor the film emotionally. I didn't want to bring this up, but as someone who saw the Beetlejuice musical long before I watched the movie, I honestly vastly prefer the way it handles the story. The broad strokes are pretty similar, but they really focus in on Lydia grieving her mom. Something you can tell is affecting her in the movie through subtext, but it's a lot better when it's more central to the story, in my opinion. I also didn't really feel that great of a connection between her and the Maitlands, and she especially barely interacts with Beetlejuice. Like, they really only meet in the last
They sync well.
Film, I'm pretty sure. I kind of assumed the plotline about him wanting to marry her, which felt very abrupt in the musical since it only showed up in Act 2, was more fleshed out and showed up earlier in the original film. Nope, it's somehow more abrupt in the movie. There are so many pieces of this film that just feel like they were put together wrong. Like, there's an interesting structure here, but we just spend so much time on the Maitlands navigating the whole being dead thing and dealing with the bureaucracy of the afterlife. The bureaucracy bits are kind of funny, but I'm sorry, I just don't think these two are compelling characters.
What?
Especially when Lydia and Beetlejuice are right there. And I don't even love either of them. They're both really good, but not anywhere near my favorite Burton characters. Beetlejuice has plenty of funny moments, and Keaton is really going ham on the performance, which is great.
Yeah.
I just didn't think he left as strong of an impression as I was hoping. The thing that really saves the movie, though, is how fantastic the effects are.
I think he left a strong enough impression on a lot of people. He only did for me.
From the makeup, to the miniatures, to the stop-motion elements. More than anything, this movie is a vehicle for Burton to really go crazy and show the world what he can do, with some incredible visual fidelity. The film definitely got better as it went on, and became more and more entrenched in the paranormal. And the climax was especially very fun. Ultimately, I think this is kind of a fine movie. It was alright. I wasn't really that engaged by it, but it had its moments. I kinda just want to watch the musical again now, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that means we've gone through all of the 80s films and all of the 2010s films. So, what do we have left? We have, wait, no, sorry. I take back that statement. We haven't gone through all the 80s films. We still have Batman. We have that. We have Edward Scissorhands. We have Batman Returns. Ed Wood, Sleepy Hollow, Big Fish, Corpse Bride, Sweeney Todd, and Beetlejuice 2. That's what we have. That's what we have left. I'm kind of curious to see where those films rank. Though I'm probably gonna hate it.
Batman.
I've always loved Batman. As in, I was 10 when The Dark Knight came out. So yeah, you do the math. But I had never actually seen the original Batman movie that kicked off his cinematic legacy. Well, now that I've embarked on this Tim Burton ranking, I have still not seen it. You know, the original Adam West movie, that wasn't a part of this ranking. But the first Michael Keaton movie,
I don't get it.
That's a Tim Burton flick through and through. Taking on a character like Batman seems to have been an important stepping stone for Burton to develop his dark and gloomy aesthetic. Tragically though, and I don't know if this will get my Batman Enjoyer card revoked, but I just did not really get into Batman 89 that much. I found it to be kind of a slow and dull experience a lot of the time. I really like
Yeah, I didn't really get into the film much either. I mean, I'm not saying that because I've been spoiled by the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy. No, I don't know why I did the air quotes there. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that this film isn't good because it pales in comparison to the Dark Knight films. I do think this film legitimately isn't very good, and my dad is kind of shocked by it because he's kind of like a comic guy, and he kind of grew up in the 80s. I mean, he was 20 when this film came out, and I don't know, but still though, I couldn't really get much into this one despite the two leads. Though I don't know if my review will really express that well.
in the opening, we see a lot of non-Bruce Wayne perspectives on living in a city with a Batman in it. But unfortunately, I feel like this movie doesn't really ever take much of an interest in Bruce Wayne's perspective. I don't know, both he and Batman feel like they hardly ever get a sufficient amount of focus. And I feel like the single most obvious culprit as to why is Jack Nicholson's Joker. I was kind of confused when Nicholson's name was the first one shown off in the opening credits, and I assumed it was only because he was a bigger star than Keaton. But after watching the movie, no, the Joker kind of is the main character. It genuinely feels like most of the movie is focused on his origin and the various shenanigans he gets up to. And I don't know, I would have liked a little more time to better flesh out Bruce Wayne. Nicholson's Joker is the real deal though. He's as unabashedly silly as you could possibly want out of a combination of this actor and this character. I like when he pulls the really long gun out of his pants because, like, how was it in there? That doesn't make sense. How did he do that? Apparently the Prince songs in this movie are kind of a divisive element, but I think they really work because they suit the maniacally unhinged goofball that is the Joker.
I don't like them.
You hear that silly-ass song playing as he trashes the art gallery, it just feels right. He's a real delight of a villain. And yet, I still feel like he's too much of a good thing when you compare him to how little we get of the titular character. And even then, I don't know if Keaton is a particularly great Bruce Wayne or Batman for me personally. He should really just stick to playing man. As Bruce Wayne, he kind of comes across as overly aloof or spaced out in a lot of scenes, and I don't really think he's all that charismatic. That god-awful mullet didn't help either. And I think he's certainly better as Batman. He has a very striking look and some cool fight scenes. But I'm sorry, I hate to be the millionth person to knock him for this, but god, why can't he move his neck? He just looks so needlessly silly when he has to look up, and it kind of takes me out of the film a bit whenever that happens. I wasn't all that engaged by Vicky Vale or her relationship with Bruce either.
Neither was I.
The tone was a little mismatched at times. I'm a little mixed on what they did with Bruce's parents. I mean, it makes for kind of a cool connection with these characters, but it also can't help but feel a little bit corny and stupid. Yeah, overall, I just really wish I got into this more. But thankfully, Jack Nicholson's Joker really carries a lot of this movie for me, and makes it a pretty decent time overall.
Well, I just want to say, him saying that he didn't care for Keaton's Batman, might get a lot of angry complaints. I mean, I haven't read the comment section on this video, and I'm not sure if I want to. I'm watching this on my TV, by the way, as you can tell by me holding my remote several times. Okay, I just heard briefly from number 8, it's gonna be Beetlejuice 2. I'm not just gonna be, but I think that audio is from the Honest Show for Les Miserables, and that's so crazy to me. I never expected him to use any bit from those videos at all.
Okay, just hear me out on this.
Okay.
Willem Dafoe is in this one. Yeah, good luck countering that argument. I'm not going to pretend that Beetlejuice is a better movie than the original film from a structural standpoint, because it's not. The original is a far more cohesive film, it stands better on its own, it is nowhere near the level of overstuffed mess that this sequel, which throws everything at the wall to see what sticks, is. But with that said, this one was just more fun to me. I am fully embracing the Rio 2 reasoning this time, and letting you know that this sequel just made a way more enjoyable and silly use of all the tools at this universe's disposal than the original did. And most importantly, this one actually focused on the 2 characters I wanted the focus to be on in the original, Lydia and Beetlejuice. The Maitlands are just gone.
And that made it worse.
As an adult, trying to deal with her trauma from the first film. It's pretty interesting to see.
I'm sorry, but 52-year-old Winona Ryder just does not work with that goth makeup. It really doesn't. Also, this means that we've had like 13 movies that were average to bad. That's weird.
Ended up, and I like Winona's performance a lot here. Her daughter is a little generic, with a predictable but not terrible arc. And I really like the subplot she gets involved with this ghost boy. Delia is pretty funny, even if I don't think she was nearly this eccentric in the original.
I don't really like Jenna Ortega's plot in this film. It just feels like something straight out of a bad episode of Wednesday. I should let you know this because I never posted these opinions anywhere. I didn't really care for Wednesday, not season 1 nor season 2. In a way, that comparison is spot on because, well, not only is Burton involved with both films, but apparently this film has the same. Apparently, the screenwriters of this film are also the creators of that show, Alfred Goh and Miles Miller. I'm pretty sure the only reason why they wrote this film is because of their connection with Burton working on Wednesday. Yeah, that kind of tracks. Also, I don't like the look of this film. It looks too good. Like, too polished, too Netflix-y.
They might have dialed that up a bit too much.
Hey, it's Burton Gorman.
Michael Keaton is still great as Beetlejuice, even if you can tell he has a little less energy to his voice and mannerisms, but that's to be expected. I still thought he was awesome. My new favorite character in the Beetlejuice cinematic universe is Willem Dafoe as this actor turns dead detective.
You know, he's something of an actor himself.
I seriously couldn't get enough of him, and I'm shocked it took Burton this long to cast Willem Dafoe in something. Seriously, how is this their first collaboration? Speaking of Burton, this movie marks a well-publicized return to form for him, where after a decade of creative misses and Disney live-action slop in the 2010s, here he was getting back to his roots, not only making a sequel to one of his classics, but utilizing all sorts of practical effects and stop motion again in big 2024. I watched these movies back to back, And while seeing the worm in stop motion was really cool in the original, seeing that same effect in this new movie was both really cool and oddly heartwarming. Not just because I obviously would have...
I hate the orange look.
...if I had grown up with the original Beetlejuice, but it's just so nice to see a beautiful, handcrafted effect like this in a movie again. It's like how the sequel trilogy made use of all sorts of puppets, which were incredible to witness on the big screen, despite all the messy writing surrounding them. Hey, messy writing? That reminds me, I was talking about Beetlejuice. Yeah, this movie has way too many damn subplots, and it takes an hour before things start actually happening in the plot. The pacing here is kind of ridiculous. I mean, I thought the original was a bit slow, but there's a difference between being methodical and being aimless. Please note, everyone, I am complimenting the original and noting that it is better paced than the sequel. Don't get me wrong, I still really like a lot of the gags and shenanigans and gnarly effects in the first hour. But man, this could have used some edits in the writing room. The thing is though, I just had a blast with the last 40 minutes of the movie or so. Once this thing gets going, it's really fun and makes great use of the underworld. I really like the Soul Train sequence, even if it was probably just Tim trying to make up for saying black people don't fit his aesthetic. Yeah, he rightfully got backlash for that, but it kind of feels like he said, oh yeah? I'll show them there's a place for black people in my movies. Here they all are dancing to soul music on the Soul Train. Tim, I don't know if this is going to help you beat the allegations. Oh well, Tim's weird hang-ups aside, I thought it was a fun element. And there's so much fun and creativity in the ending sequence. It obviously pays Member Berries-esque homage to the Banana Boat song in the original, but this one is fun and elaborate enough to stand out on its own merits.
Fun? That was torture.
Overall, I think the film has enough fresh and fun new ideas to justify existing beyond just milking your nostalgia. The problem is that there's too many ideas. The fact that I went this entire segment without even mentioning Beetlejuice's soul-sucking ex-wife, who serves the main motivation for him to get involved in the plot, should probably tell you that she wasn't exactly a well-fleshed-out element of the film. There's a lot here you could trim, but ultimately, I think this movie is kind of miraculously enjoyable for late-stage Tim Burton. Yeah, it could have been better, but I think we're all just excited to see him put a little passion into something for a change. He clearly had fun with this one, and you can see it on screen. It's a mess, but it's an enjoyable mess. And I'd probably rather rewatch it over the original, even if it is a worse movie. What can I say?
Then why'd you rank it higher?
Beetlejuice things when they have more Beetlejuice in them.
You're a fake man.
I was gonna. One of my problems is that, well, for a large chunk of the movie, they pretty much forget that the ex-girlfriend is out for revenge. Like they just dropped her in favor of all these subplots. Also, I should mention that's the only movie I haven't covered in my Burton ranking or anyone else on my blog. Main reason why it's not covered in the ranking is because at the time his most recent film was Dumbo. Okay, so now we have 4 films from the 90s and 3 films from the 2000s. I assume this is where it starts rising above 6 out of 10 territory, which is good because I can't stand the idea of someone thinking that a lot of Burton's output is average. I mean, half of it is, but a lot of it is just straight bangers, including 2 of the films that he just called were average. Actually, 3. 4. Sorry. 4. My bad. Anyways, I wonder what. Let me think this through.
Assuming you guys didn't already kill me for that last segment, would you kill me if I said I also liked
Batman
Returns a lot more than the first Batman?
I would not.
It's a much dumber movie, and it's way more of a mess, and it probably does even less with Batman and Bruce Wayne as characters. But damn it, it's more fun. Well, the first...
Yeah. I do think it actually is one of the few superhero sequels to be better than the original. Like, I mean, the original is like a 5 out of 10, and this is an 8 out of 10. When it comes to comic book movies, the only instances I can think of where the sequel is better than the original are X-Men 2, Spider-Man 2, Captain America Winter Soldier, and that's all I can think of off the top of my head.
Movie tried to ground itself more with journalism plot lines that ultimately wound up being kind of dull. This movie is just completely off its rocker. I'm talking crazy shit. Danny DeVito as the Penguin is genuinely one of the most inspired casting decisions in comic book history.
Yeah, the reason why it is more goofy and off the wall is because Burton was given full creative control over this film. He thought that working on the first one was a bit of a miserable experience, at least that's what I've heard. And now he's going full batshit Burton, which I think is a good thing because I actually love Tim Burton a lot more than James does.
He's perfect. Hamming up every scene and line delivery with his trademark trash man flair. And this character is just so horny for no...
I've actually never seen a single episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, though my dad and my sister have. Sorry, I should be talking to this guy. Fuck it.
Reason? Oh my god! What is this movie? The plan is for Penguin to get elected mayor, and said plan is concocted by this other villain, a completely original character, not from any comics, named Max Schreck. Yes, that's his name. His name is Schreck. He's played...
I gotta have more cowbell!
And you'd think that would be fun, but Christopher Walken, for some reason, seems really bored throughout this entire movie. I mean, his hair and overall look are so out there, and yet he is just so normal for some reason. I don't know, maybe he's meant to contrast with Penguin, but even then, he doesn't come across as cold or ruthless, just uninterested, like I said. I'm bored just looking at him. Let's talk about Penguin some more. So yeah, he plans to become the mayor.
No, let's talk about Michelle Pfeiffer.
Jacked Batman's Batmobile to make it look like Batman was running civilians over. And he gloated the whole time he did so. Well, Batman takes those recordings of him gloating and basically performs the old, I'll kidnap 1,000 children if I let this exposing Penguin to the angry crowd. And because of this one crowd that's mad at him for an audio recording that he could totally argue was faked, he just completely abandons running for mayor and decides to commence an entirely new plan that involves kidnapping the firstborn children of every household, since he was the firstborn child who was abandoned by his family for being ugly. Yes, his backstory is Moses, except if Moses was found and raised by penguins. Don't even get me started on the part of his plan where the penguins have rockets strapped to themselves or something. Honestly, at this point, I might have blacked out. This is the most insane shit I've ever seen in a Batman movie. Probably because I haven't watched Forever or Batman and Robin yet. But regardless, I love it.
I actually have seen Forever and Robin, but not in a long time. Not since I was 13. Which was also when I first saw all the other Batman movies. Yeah, it's crazy that it took me so long to see the film for the first time, but then again, I'm still very young, as you can tell.
Well, so hard. And the fact that Penguin's schemes and goals are all over the place honestly makes it even better. It contributes to the wacky, wonderful ride that is this movie. I think there are other characters in it. I don't remember. Oh yeah, Catwoman! I guess I'm not very up to date on Selena Kyle lore, but apparently she gets her femme fatale powers because Shrek pushes her out a window, and then a bunch of cats come and lick her, and that resurrects her, and now she's Catwoman. This movie is so stupid, it's great, I love it. So Catwoman dicks around a lot and just completely gets Bruce Wayne in the palm of her hands. Not really for any nefarious reasons, just because she can, I guess. She also teams up with Penguin so they can defeat Batman together so he won't stop her from being gay and doing crimes. Except 20 minutes later, Penguin decides he doesn't like her anymore since she doesn't want to f*** him. So he strands her on an umbrella that flies all the way up to the sky. I honestly forget how she gets down. I'm telling you, this movie does things to your brain. It's so silly. Then she realizes, hey, wait a minute, maybe it's time to get revenge and kill my boss since he killed me. Like, if I were her, that would have been the first thing I would have done. Instead, she waits till the end of the movie to try and kill Shrek. And Batman has to talk her out of it by taking his mask off in front of her and this wealthy evil businessman who he intends to leave alive. But then Shrek just shoots Batman and completely knocks him out while he deals with Selena? Is that all it takes? I mean, it doesn't surprise me considering how Batman kinda sucks in this movie. He gets flustered and stumbles over his words during his first encounter with Catwoman, which Batman should never do, darn it. There's this part where the Penguin is trying to frame Batman for killing this one lady, and Batman just kind of stands there as she stumbles and doesn't do anything to stop her from falling off the roof. He just kind of watches. Don't you have a gadget for this situation or something? Why can't you just jump after her and grab her and then grapple away? What are you doing, buddy? I already wasn't crazy about Michael Keaton's version of the character, and this movie didn't exactly do him any favors. I mean, at least the first movie laid out mystery and intrigue as to why Batman is the way he is, even if it is all obvious stuff by modern standards. This movie isn't really about Batman. He's just kind of there as Penguin and Catwoman do crazy shit. And while I criticized the original movie for being a little too focused on the Joker while Batman fell to the wayside a bit, I think having two hammy, gonzo, goofball villains instead of one makes all the difference. By dividing the villain screen time between them, I didn't really feel like I was missing Batman that much, since it's charitable to say he has a third of this movie to himself. Not really doing interesting or compelling stuff related to his character, mind you, but just getting horny for Selina and dealing with whatever kooky thing Penguin has cooked up. Oh yeah, I also wanted to mention just how stellar the art direction is. Like, the first movie looked good, even winning the art direction Oscar. But damn, this movie blows it out of the water. It looks phenomenal. I want to live here. Oh, wait, no I don't. What am I saying? Overall, I had a blast with Batman Returns. I think it's kind of heavily flawed and all over the place, but who gives a shit when I'm having this much fun with it? I think Christopher Walken should reprise his role as Max Schreck in The Batman 2.
So no head?
Okay, I don't know how he went that entire segment without once bringing up Michelle Pfeiffer's performance, because she is absolutely phenomenal in that film. Like, just possibly the best depiction of Catwoman we've ever gotten in Batman-related media. I mean, to be fair, it has been a while since I've seen Dark Knight Rises. I don't think Anne Hathaway in that would be as good as Pfeiffer, even though it's Anne Hathaway, and I said earlier that I love her. But still, Pfeiffer. Anyways, okay, yeah, anyway, I already know what number 6 is because I've seen his ratings on Letterboxd, and I also ranked them myself looking at them. It's Sleepy Hollow.
Sleepy Hollow is a loose adaptation of the classic short story, changing and adding a bunch of elements, but keeping the main core of a man named Ichabod Crane having to deal with a headless horseman intact. I don't know much about the original stories, so I can't really compare them, but I will say, from a visual and directorial perspective, this movie is kind of excellent. It brings the headless horseman to life in such a vivid and terrifying manner, with some sick-as-hell gore and other spooky surprises. I kind of wasn't expecting this movie to have a large Marge moment, like a crazy CGI gabagoo moment, but it does, and it really works. The horseman is obviously the star of the show here, though, and there are multiple sequences, like the cabin scene and the church scene, that have me on the edge of my seat, frozen with fear. Absolutely magnificent stuff. And I also just really like the fact that he's Christopher Walken when he has a head. I'm sorry, I just think the image of Christopher Walken in anything is unintentionally funny. And that isn't his fault, it's just... look at his face, dude. He's great. Super funny in anything except for when he's Max Schreck. I like how Christopher Lee is in this movie for just one scene. And actually, so is his Sith Master, Ian McDiarmid. It's honestly the first time I've ever seen him in a movie that isn't Star Wars. And I really wish
I don't remember this movie.
But, oh well. He's in more than one scene, at least. As cool and exciting as the action and horror sequences are, and as much as Johnny Depp's performance in the movie is solid and definitely one of the better ones on this list, I still can't help but feel like the script leaves a lot to be desired. It's not bad, but I don't think the actual story is quite as engaging as the direction. There's a whodunit element to this film, where it turns out the Headless Horseman was awakened because someone stole his skull, and is commanding him to commit all these murders. You see, every time he kills someone, he collects their head, because he doesn't have his head. Don't get me wrong, the mystery element here is okay, and there are plenty of clever, well-paced clues pointing to the real culprit. But I can't help but feel that it would have been fine if they just played this straight, and had the Headless Horseman be the main antagonist of the Headless Horseman movie. I don't know, I feel like the film makes a lot of choices that really demystifies the character. So while he's effective in the action scenes, I'm a little more mixed on his presence in the film overall, since he's just kind of a hired goon for the bigger bad.
Hired goons?
There's also a
Yeah, I was gonna make that joke too.
Really get invested in whatsoever, and quite a few comedic moments that I just kind of thought were out of place, like seeing Johnny Depp wearing this goofy little headpiece to investigate some murders, or get really shrill at the sight of a spider. It's like, okay, now I'm starting to wonder if Tim Burton really is the best fit for this material. The rest of the film definitely backs
He
it
is.
up, but there are still quite a few parts, especially in the first half, that made me think, I'd rather be watching a Robert Eggers take on this story. Actually, I really want to see that now, huh? But regardless, this film is quintessential Burton in so many ways. It really shows off a lot of his dark, moody, terrifying strengths. It definitely took a while for me to really get into it, but once I did, I was pretty hooked. It's a very good time and something you should definitely check out if you're into him as a director.
Okay, I want to say, I didn't really get into Christina Ricci's performance too much, even though it is technically great, and I do love me some Christina Ricci. Also, I thought the third act was kind of dumb, especially with Miranda Richardson's twist villain. So anyways, now I'm in the top 5, and I already know what they're gonna be, mainly because, again, I've seen his ratings on Letterboxd, and I know which one's got a high rating, though I'm still a bit disappointed with what we've gotten so far. What that means is that there's only 5 films of his that Schaffrillas would give a rating of 8 out of 10 or higher. For me, that number is 10. Huh.
Body. So, a long time ago at this point, I said I would do a ranking of every Best Animated Feature nominee. And a ton of people have reasonably wondered, is that still happening? I'm about 16 pages into the script, and I've only covered a quarter of the nominees. I haven't worked on the script in a year. I genuinely don't know if this is ever happening at this point. But the good news is...
Yeah, I'd prefer if you didn't do that ranking, because that is way too ambitious.
I did get around to in that script was Corpse Bride. So without further ado, I'm just gonna reuse the same thing I wrote about this movie a year ago in this massive unreleased ranking. I rewatched the film recently just to make sure I didn't have anything else to add and that all my opinions still held up, and they do, don't worry. With that said, take it away, words of 2024, Schaffrillas. Corpse Bride, or Tim Burton's Corpse Bride, as it's sometimes called, which is really obnoxious, but hey, at least he was one of the 2 directors on it, so it's better than Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, damn it. Anyway, yeah, Corpse Bride is really good. Much like Nightmare Before Christmas, this movie takes place in this absolute stop-motion wonderland, where every single frame has something amazing to look at. The uniquely shaped character designs are outstanding. The overall gothic look of the setting is tremendously compelling. The Corpse Bride herself looks absolutely radiant and glowing, but also creepy and decaying at the same time. It's a crazy balancing act, but they pulled it off really well. The plot is pretty simple, but it's still rather investing as you wonder how the hell the main character is going to get out of such an awkward situation. Like, I really enjoy how the main conflict doesn't really have a villain. It's just, oh, this reanimated corpse accidentally thought I was proposing to her and married me on the spot. Happens to the best of us. So I did want to see him get out of this awkward sham marriage and get back to the girl he does want to marry. But at the same time, damn, you feel bad for Emily. She should have someone. Oh well. The ending wasn't really what I expected, but I thought it was a pretty sweet and lovely note to conclude the story on. The villain of the film is okay. I know I said the main conflict didn't have a villain, and that's because this guy is basically a subplot. But he's got a good connection to everything going on, and he works fine. The songs are mostly kind of forgettable, except the one song in the middle about the Corpse Bride's backstory with all the dancing skeletons. That shit went unreasonably hard. It probably would have terrified me if I had watched this movie when it came out, since I was 7, so thank God I'm only watching it now. But yeah, what a stellar show.
Damn text.
Just what animation, and specifically stop motion, can do. I do kind of wish the film was longer, though.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Remains of the Day, it is probably the only good song in the film. In fact, right now I'm trying to get my mom to learn it on the piano. And also, I just vaguely heard him say that he was longer. I agree. I said the same thing in my review. Like, it's pretty much as long as Nightmare Before Christmas, but I felt like it needed more time to flesh out the characters and its world.
If it clocked in at 90 minutes instead of 77, they might have had some time to flesh out the Land of the Dead, or Victor's interactions with either of his gal pals a little bit better. I'll always take a movie that doesn't overstay its welcome over one that goes on too long, but sometimes you can just tell that something needs to be expanded just a little bit more. Still, I had a wonderful time with Corpse Bride, and I really wish it had a similar following to Nightmare Before Christmas. It's not quite as good, but it's still really good. And if you like that movie, or stop-motion animation in general, I think you'll get a ton out of this.
I just want to say, this might get executed in some circles, I think it's just okay. I don't love the film. Like, there's not really a whole bunch of stuff that's wrong with it, at least that he didn't already address in this review, but it's not something that I'd actually want to return to. Especially compared to, say, Frankie Weenie or Charlie the Chocolate Factory. If you're up to me to choose one of two stop-motion films from 2005 that had Helen Bonham Carter, I'd go for Wallace and Gromit: Curse the Rabbit. In fact, I'm actually going to watch that film after I record this video. By the time this video is uploaded, I'll probably have already watched that movie. I don't know how long it's going to take me to edit. Okay, number 4. This is going to be either Big Fish or Sweeney Todd.
It's a pop.
You fools! You fell for it again! This entire Tim Burton ranking was just a trap to get you to listen to me talk about musicals again! At last, my arm is complete again! Tim Burton, you see, directed the film adaptation of the musical Sweeney Todd.
You know, I actually put this at number 4 on my ranking too. What a crazy coincidence.
Demon Barber of Fleet Street. And Sweeney Todd is one of the all-time greats. I adore it. I think it's easily Stephen Sondheim's best show, and it's in my personal top 10 favorite musicals of all time. Just ignore the fact that in my second Letterboxd tagline video, I forgot one of the lyrics in the final song. I don't listen to that song very much, my bad. But anyway, that's the stage show that's excellent. How does the film adaptation compare? I don't think it's as good, but it's still pretty freaking good. The thing is, Tim Burton seems like the perfect guy to direct this on paper.
The funny thing is, the stage show isn't all that great, but the movie actually is. I actually watched it for comparison after I made my Burton ranking, and I do think it works a lot better as a movie than it does as a stage show, oddly enough. I'm not sure how that's even possible.
The 90s, I feel like he would have done an absolutely stellar job. But unfortunately, this is 2000's Tim Burton we're talking about. He released this movie in between Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Alice in Wonderland. It's kind of a miracle that it's even watchable at all. I mean, the rough CG in the overture is worrying.
Miracle? Dude, 2000's Burton is underrated. What the fuck are you talking about?
But for the most part, Burton's style doesn't really overtake this film at all, in a positive or negative way. He kind of just lets the musical play out and doesn't really feel like he's putting that much of a personal stamp on the visuals. Again, that's great. I don't want this looking like Alice in Wonderland. But at the same time, man, I would kill to see what the Burton who did Edward Scissorhands or even Sleepy Hollow could do with this. The movie looks fine and appropriately bleak, but it kind of feels like he took a hands-off approach to directing it. Sometimes that's a good thing, since this story and this music are tremendous, and I want to see them play out on screen without whatever shit Tom Hooper did with the cinematography and editing of Les Mis. But other times, it feels like there's a lot of dead air.
You know, actually, funny enough, I didn't really care for the songs much when I first saw the film, and the second time when I reviewed it, but ever since the second viewing, like, the songs actually started growing on me, and I really enjoyed them. Though I don't think I like Joanna much, but I still like the songs, I think at least.
It's hard to describe, but some scenes feel a bit sluggish. I don't know. Again, it's better than having actively bad direction. I think the emotions, the story, and the intricacies of the characters all come through pretty well. They had to cut a few things out, obviously, but I don't think it's anything too essential. I mean, the opening song for the musical is a banger, but I understand that it wouldn't really fit a movie adaptation. They maybe downplay Anthony and Joanna's roles a bit more than I'd like, but they add a couple scenes to make you hate Turpin even more. And I think those are...
Yeah, I don't like Anthony in this movie much.
Quest is the primary plotline. Now for the performances, I think they are all pretty good in the acting department and pretty fine in the singing departments. Anthony, Joanna, and especially Toby are the best singers in the cast. Probably because they aren't celebrities, what do you know? I do kind of have a pet peeve whenever weaker singers are cast in movie musicals just because the producers want to put butts in seats. But I honestly think it works fine enough.
I actually haven't seen the film adaptation of Les Mis, and honestly, I don't think I really want to.
Johnny Depp and Helena Bonham Carter are decent enough vocally to make most of these songs work. Except for one, and we'll get to that. There are a ton of parts where the background music is blaring and it kind of drowns them out since they can't sing loud enough to overtake it. I mean, the sound mixer probably could have fixed that, but it's also fair to expect someone in these roles to be able to match the intensity of the characters and the music. But I think these two at least pick up the slack in the acting department. Johnny Depp was even nominated for an Oscar for this performance, and watching it, Yeah, I think that's fair. He's supremely terrifying in this role, and he sells every little moment and menacing facial expression. I would definitely prefer a stronger singer, but I think the acting definitely saves this performance. Except during the most pivotal song of the whole show? Yeah, this is kind of a big problem. He clearly did not have it in him to perform Epiphany. This is one of the greatest songs in all of musical theater, in my opinion. And his version is just awful. It really sucks. I don't know what to tell you. This is the only song in the movie I outright call bad. But it's the most important one to get right.
But I like that one. I love that one.
I don't know. If this is the only time you've seen Sweeney Todd, please do yourself a favor and watch any other version. I'm sure you can find one floating around on YouTube.
Too late for that.
Pretty much every other song works. A Little Priest is fun and bouncy. There's a lot of tension during Pretty Women. The contrast between Sweeney and Anthony and Joanna Quartet is sold pretty well. And yeah, like I said, the kid who played Toby has really got the pipes. Goddamn. Not While I'm Around is a definite highlight. Overall, I really like this film, but I think the source material is entirely elevating it, since the performances and the direction are both pretty solid. They worked. You can just tell, though, that this musical has the potential to give us the best film adaptation of a stage show of all time. But I don't know if anyone has a reason to try again, since this one was decently successful, and it's pretty well liked to this day, from what I can tell. It's good, I like it, but you really owe it to yourself to see Sweeney on stage sometime.
Mater.
I don't want to see it on stage, but anyway, I already know what number 3 is. It's gonna be Big Fish, because numbers 2 and 1 are gonna be Edward Scissorhands and Ed Wood, because he gave those 4.5 stars on Letterboxd, and Big Fish got 4 stars. I personally put this at number 8 on my ranking. In fact, I did put it at number 8. That's so weird for me because everyone else puts it on there in their top 5. I think it's just a number 8. What can I say? I'm a weird guy.
Not happen.
I didn't really know much about Big Fish going in. I assumed there was a very large aquatic creature in it, and
No.
boy was I right. But it's also an offbeat, quirky, and deceptively moving film, where we see a man's life told through these fantastical tall tales that he continues to tell, even as an old man. And his stupid-ass son is mad about that. Like, bro, can't you just accept a little whimsy into your life for once? I found him pretty annoying whenever it cut back to the present framing device. But, you know, obviously his attitude throughout the rest of the film is essential to making the ending land as much as it does.
Yeah, the pacing issue was kind of an issue for me. Like the way he kept cutting back between the flashbacks and the present day was pretty jarring. I do think Billy Crudup is an enjoyable actor. Wait, no, I can't say. I've only seen 2 other films that he was in. Almost Famous and I think Watchmen. Was he in Watchmen? I think he was. But I really liked him in Almost Famous. I liked him. I liked Jason Lee. I liked Frances McDormand. I liked Kate Hudson. Sorry, I loved Kate Hudson. Really, the only performance in that movie I didn't like was Jimmy Fallon, which is weird because normally I like him. But anyways, that's a completely different movie. We're trying to focus on this movie, Big Fish.
Disregarding the son character, though, I feel like the movie has a lot of stops and starts because of its format. So it always needs to keep
I just said that.
momentum once the flashback ends and we're waiting for the next one. I know, the framing device is crucial to the film, but man, the present scenes can be kind of a drag in comparison to the rest of this. The fantastical tales with Ewan McGregor are great, though.
Ewan McGregor.
He's just so wide-eyed and happy-go-lucky. You just can't help but want him to succeed in life. And you keep waiting for there to be an antagonist in one of these stories. The spooky witch, the creepy townspeople who may or may not be dead, the sleazy carnival owner played by Danny DeVito. But it's truly amazing how Edward spins all of these around into positive relationships and doesn't come into real conflict with anyone. Well, okay, there was his future wife's fiancé, but, you know, he died anyway, so it's fine. I was really enamored by these stories, and I think the film plays really well into Burton's visual sensibilities. This is one of the last films of his you can really feel a passion behind from a directorial standpoint. At least until Beetlejuice came around. I don't know if I quite think this film is amazing. Maybe it's a little too disjointed and can get a little too out there on occasion, but it's definitely great. Especially when you get to the magnificent conclusion that had me absolutely bawling. Honestly, I think it might be...
Yeah, I think my mother was in tears watching that too. I think my uncle, I put him uncle because he's not really my uncle, told me that he cried watching the film. I did not cry watching the film. I don't really cry watching movies much, which is I nearly cry watching movies though, which I think I said in some of my reviews. Yes, I did. So yeah, I'm not sure why that felt awkward.
Best ending to any Tim Burton film. Overall, a lovely movie that allows you to really see the magic in everyday life. It was also nice seeing Steve Buscemi in a really funny role in a film.
Buscemi.
The Adam Sandler comedy. Only a few more months till we get to talk about those. Yippee!
I didn't know.
I just want to say a few issues that actually just one issue that he did not address. The whole thing regarding Alison Lohman, I forgot what her character's name was. Daisy. Was she Daisy or was it Very Far with Daisy? We don't have time to think about that right now. I thought everything that he did to propose to her was really creepy. Like, there was one moment where, like, Danny DeVito was like, she's going to college, and he's like, college. I'm not sure why you'd find that really romantic. It's not romantic for me. I mean, I'm in college right now. I feel like that fiance is kind of justified in beating the shit out of him, because why wouldn't you do that to a total creep? Also, interestingly enough, a young Miley Cyrus is in the film as one of the kids that young Ewan McGregor is with at the witch's house. Surprised he didn't bring that up. Okay, now the top two, and I know what they're going to be. Edward Scissorhands and Ed Wood, which were also the top two in my ranking. Stop. I gotta stop. So let's see which two it is.
Better, I think you had feelings for this monster.
Scissorhands?
Oh, wow. I was just absolutely enchanted by Edward Scissorhands. I had no idea what this movie was about going in. All I knew was he's a guy with scissors for hands. That's pretty much it. I wasn't expecting him to be such a wide-eyed, innocent being, left unfinished by his creator, having nothing in life but this big, empty castle. Seeing him get whisked away to suburbia is incredibly entertaining and engaging, but also a little bit sad the whole way through, not just in the final act.
It's just
Because while everyone in the neighborhood warms up to him pretty quickly,
this is actually number one on my ranking.
a novelty act for these people. A hedge trimmer, a kebab holder, a show and tell prop, a buddy. Everyone's impressed with him, but so few of these people actually express a desire to get to know him on a human level. So while you could say he's not lonely anymore, he's still definitely isolated. And again, this is really strengthened by what a likable innocence and curiosity he has to him. You want him to be okay and be truly accepted for who he is, instead of just being known as the cool guy with scissor hands. And the real beating heart of the movie comes from the relationship he forms with Winona Ryder's character. I honestly don't know if there were enough on-screen interactions between them to really sell how much she cares for him. Like, my brain is telling me that, but my heart is telling me, nah, I get it. What's here is kind of all you need. And that shot of her dancing in the snow he creates is just beyond beautiful. Inevitably, the people who never cared about Edward on a human level wind up turning on him, since they start to believe he's dangerous. And that leads into a deeply devastating third act that kept me guessing whether or not they could somehow pull it around into a happy ending. It's also really similar to Beauty and the Beast a year before that movie came out. That's kind of funny.
That is kind of funny.
I got close to crying. It almost got me, but I resisted. Damn, this movie is so good. I haven't even mentioned all the technical aspects, like the stellar makeup job on Edward, or the wonderful production design that gives us this ever so slightly exaggerated depiction of suburbia. It's a really striking film visually, and it's a very personal movie to Burton himself, since he based it on his experience growing up in suburbia and not really fitting in with anyone around him. That's really touching, and this is an incredibly creative visual metaphor to get that across. What can I say? This movie is just absolutely wonderful. A lovely, picturesque, yet haunting fable that I'd recommend to anyone. I actually came really close to ranking this in the #1 spot. It's just such a strikingly original and well-realized work that might be more structurally sound than my #1 pick. But damn it, that #1 pick just affected me so heavily, while also being fresh, original, and well-realized
I know what it is.
in its own right. So let's talk about it.
It's Ed Wood.
I love bad movies, okay?
It's in black and white, too.
Cannot get enough of high-quality garbage. And I'm not talking terrible blockbusters like Madam Web or The Rise of Skywalker. No. I'm talking about the real garbage that you can find residing in the darkest depths of Tubi. Movies that scream true filmmaking incompetence to a magnificent degree. And more often than not, these movies are so endearing because it feels like the people making them legitimately love what they're doing. You don't get that from bad studio films. The unbridled creativity and passion that can be found in a terrible Tubi exclusive that only 37 people have logged on Letterboxd is a legitimately magical, indescribable feeling. And that is precisely why I love Ed Wood so much. This movie gets it. It's a stunningly empathetic and moving portrait of a guy famous for creating some of the worst and most despised films of all time. But it perfectly captures that tremendous spark that the real Wood must have had making these. It comes across not only in Burton's snappy and tight direction that feels entirely unlike anything else he's made. Like seriously, I didn't know he had this kind of movie in him. But it also comes across in Johnny...
Didn't he also say that on Letterboxd too?
Energetic and immensely likable performance as a man who's just so excited to be making art, regardless of his lack of technical know-how. I was a little disappointed that it didn't paint a fuller portrait of the production of these movies and show us all the technical goofs and problems that apparently exist in the final products. But by the ending, I started to really appreciate that. This isn't about how others perceive Wood and his work. It's about his perspective. The movie ends on the highest point in his life and career because it wants to draw focus to his ingenuity and spirit. And for a 90s movie, it's also pretty progressive in regards to Wood being a transvestite. I didn't even know that about him going in. I thought he was just making up a story at the beginning of the movie to get a job. But no, it's a true fact about him, and the movie treats him with a lot of dignity and respect for it. Obviously, his first girlfriend doesn't like that, but then he finds someone who does. And I really love that scene where he feels the need to tell her before their relationship moves forward. It's a very moving and empathetic moment in a whole sea of them in this movie. Which reminds me, I can't believe I've gone this long without even mentioning Martin Landau's performance as Bela Lugosi. He's tremendous. Almost stealing everyone and everything else in this film. He embodies the guy who played Dracula so flawlessly. And there's too many gut-wrenching and heartbreaking scenes with him to count in this film. I was moved to tears multiple times watching it. And I think the moment that really got me was a line someone else gave about his cape. Seeing this sad old man reflect on his faded career and find new purpose in his friendship with Wood was tremendous. To this day, this is the only performance Tim Burton ever directed to win an Oscar. And that's perfect to me. Depp definitely should have been nominated for Best Actor as well, but this was kind of a stacked year for film. I don't know if you knew that, but a lot of extremely good movies came out in the year 1994. And this one truly deserves to stand alongside the greats from that year. It's a wonderful and deceptively powerful film. Probably one of the best biopics I've ever seen. It's funny, it's moving, it's shot incredibly well. Everyone's performance is great. Sarah Jessica Parker kind of took me out of it a bit because she doesn't really have 1950s face like the rest of the actors in this movie. I don't know. Am I crazy, or does she just not look like someone who belongs in this time period, like everyone else in the cast does?
Well, I'll tell you one thing for certain. She's definitely better in this movie than she is in Hocus Pocus. Just to let you guys know, I really don't like Hocus Pocus. I actually hate it. I covered it on that same blog that I'm going to link to later on. But I'm not going to link the Hocus Pocus review. No, because that's not necessary.
That's a me problem. She's great in this movie as well. I don't think it's perfect. It can be a little repetitive sometimes. So much time is spent on the first love interest that we don't really get to develop the second one. And I don't know if
I don't remember there being a second love interest.
As Orson Welles, even if it is a small scene. But these are all minor complaints. Ultimately, I think this is an incredible film. One that just gets how inherently special the act of filmmaking is, completely independent of the final product. It's a vessel for expression, for empathy, for acceptance, and what others think of a movie doesn't really matter as much as what the people who made it think. I don't gotta go breaking out the ending speech from Ratatouille again, do I? Art is
No.
special, anyone can cook, and the film Ed Wood is a tremendous expression of how much love and care goes into even the most baffling of cinematic projects. A really special movie that you should definitely check out. And in my opinion, the best movie Tim Burton has ever made. So that's the ranking. And despite all the bitching I did, I still had some fun. Despite making so many mediocre movies here and there, I think Burton is a very interesting filmmaker with a style that's still cool to look back on to this day. I say look back on because he doesn't really use that style anymore, but then again, he brought it back for Beetlejuice. Maybe his awesome visual fidelity is here to stay? Please put more stop motion shit in your movies again, Tim. I am begging you. Anyway, that's about it. Good night, Halloween Town. Aw, now you got me making that mistake. God damn it.
My famous TV show. Oh, Jack the Horseman, what you know. Alright, I don't get any cards. Okay, let's just turn this off here. So that was the Tim Burton ranking, and I gotta be honest, I was kind of disappointed by it. Not because like the placement of movies, but because of how he generally feels about Burton as a filmmaker. A lot of the movies were just like ranked in average place. Like only 7 got a rating above 6 out of 10, which is weird because, like I said, I love Burton. I mean, like, but still, it felt kind of disappointing hearing him express only averageness towards movies that I enjoy. Let me phrase that. Like 3/4 of the ranking, he was talking about films that he was like that he found to be average, and I didn't really like that much. But the top 5 definitely made it worth it. But still, I am disappointed regarding how he feels about Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice 1, Charlie the Chocolate Factory, and Frankenweenie. And probably a good thing that my dad didn't watch this with me, because he would not have been satisfied when it got to Frankenweenie and Corpse Bride, because he feels the opposite way. Kind of similar to how I feel about those movies. But yeah, in a way, this was worth it, and again, I did like hearing him talk about his top 5 movies, but I still feel that my personal ranking, not to brag, but my personal ranking is definitely a lot better. So I suggest checking that out if you can in the description of the video. And for some reason, maybe you can check out Schaffrillas. I don't know. I mean, he's not. I mean, I try to distance myself from him sometimes, but that's been hard recently. But still, if you like Schaffrillas, you can check out this ranking. If you like Tim Burton, you can maybe check it out as well. But I'd prefer checking out my ranking personally, because I feel that my opinions are, no, I'm not gonna say more about that. That's gonna make me look bad. But still, probably check that out in regards to comparison to this video. I'm just repeating myself throughout the intro. Yeah, the outro. Yeah, I didn't script this, obviously. So yeah, that was it for that, and that was it for my first reaction video too. So yeah, that's it for now. I'm Jesse, and good night.